hiding a massive family secret, the surprising reason for their estrangement, and a heartbreaking admission. Wynonna and Naomi Judd were the first mother-daughter duo to make it big in country music, but their offstage lives weren't always easy. The story of Naomi and Wynonna Judd was unhappy almost as soon as it began. As both parties have recounted, Wynonna's biological father left Naomi nearly as soon as he found out she was pregnant, setting up both Naomi and Wynonna for hardship once the baby arrived. Naomi quickly pivoted, marrying the next man she began a relationship with, Michael Simonella. The family of three moved to Los Angeles, where Naomi and Simonella welcomed their daughter, Ashley Judd. That relationship didn't work out, and Naomi soon found herself living paycheck to paycheck with two young girls. In an interview on Larry King Live in 2005, Wynonna Judd opened up in a very deep way about what her childhood was like. After admitting to Larry King that she definitely defined herself as a latchkey kid, the singer explained that she felt responsible for her younger sister Ashley Judd in a very real way. Because their mother had multiple jobs to keep things afloat, the two girls were often alone together. Wynonna explained that she feels protective of Ashley, noting, "We were on welfare and so she was gone a lot, and I kind of feel like I raised Ashley. I mean, Mum gave birth to her, but she kind of belongs to me." In fact, she went on to add that the two were close until Wynonna turned 18 and began touring with Naomi. From that point, the relationship between the two sisters became fractured. Wynonna and Ashley have two different biological fathers, but the fact wasn't shared with Wynonna for most of her life. In fact, Naomi Judd didn't tell her oldest daughter the truth until she was 30 years old. Wynonna told Oprah in 2006, "The first thing I said was, 'It's okay.' And of course, I'm raging inside. And I've just now come to realize 9 years later, I'm really angry." Naomi also spoke to Oprah, explaining that she wanted Wynonna to have the same last name as the rest of the family, but, in retrospect, not telling Wynonna the truth was a mistake. She said in the interview, "I don't know that I've thought about it every day of my life, but there were certainly very few days that I didn't live with this secret, and I think it does something to a child."
And I watched myself go through all this stuff in front of God and everybody.
After Naomi and Wynonna Judd scored an audition with RCA Records, the pair went on to become wildly successful. The musical duo, the Judds, was enormously popular throughout the 1980s and the early 1990s. The Judds sold over 20 million albums. According to the Country Music Hall of Fame, between 1984 and 1991, they had 20 top 10 country hits, including 14 number ones. The duo also won 5 Grammys, 9 Country Music Association Awards, and 7 Academy of Country Music Awards. Naomi's voice was the perfect complement to her daughters, and Wynonna shined as she took center stage. Wynonna later told Larry King that things were pretty evenly split while the women were in the group. She explained, saying, "She was 36. I was 18, and I was the lead voice, but I relied on her so much. It was pretty 50-50. She went on to add that when it was time to pick music, she knew her strengths. Wynonna said, "That was the one place in my life when I'd go in the studio, I really knew who I was. I had very little experience, but boy, when it came to strapping on a guitar and singing the notes, I knew who I was."
We were just completely slam dunk together.
The mother and daughter only stopped touring in 1991 when Naomi was diagnosed with hepatitis C. From there, Wynonna began performing and touring on her own. While speaking to Oprah in 2006, Wynonna Judd explained that she began having a complicated relationship with food after her mum got divorced. By her own admission, after achieving success with the Judds at the age of 18, food became something comforting to Wynonna. She also said that she often compared herself to her mother and sister.
"I'm standing there with Mom and Ashley, and I feel like I don't belong. I've never felt like I belonged."
Naomi also spoke to Oprah about Wynonna's ongoing battles. Naomi admitted that she wasn't as sympathetic as she could have been. She continued, saying, "My prayer is that she's really going to be a detective in her life and she's going to step back and ask what's going on with her emotionally when she's headed for the kitchen." While Naomi and Wynonna Judd clearly loved each other dearly, They were also pretty open and honest about their sometimes strained relationship. In fact, in 2016, Naomi opened up in a big way when she told Good Morning America that the two had spent a lot of time trying to mend their past shared wounds. She recounted,
"So why bore the brunt of all the mistakes I made?"
Naomi went on to elaborate on the relationship she shared with her oldest daughter, admitting to Good Morning America that they often took time apart from each other. She explained, "I love her, but there are just times we need a break from each other."
We're still a little estranged from each other, and that happens with mothers' daughters.
Naomi added that she believed her daughter would be proud of the interview, and in particular her mother's willingness to be so open. Country music fans around the world were stunned when the news broke of Naomi Judd's death in April 2022. People later reported that Naomi died by suicide. Wynonna and Ashley were faced with a surreal scenario the day after their mother's death was announced, as they were tasked with inducting her into the Country Music Hall of Fame. Wynonna was particularly impacted, as she and Naomi were being inducted into the Hall of Fame together for their work as the Judds. As she put it during the ceremony, "I'm gonna make this fast, because my heart's broken, and I feel so blessed. It's a very strange dynamic, to be this broken and this blessed." If you or anyone you know is having suicidal thoughts, please call the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline at 1-800-273-TALK. That's 1-800-273-8255.